so next day now, and after yesterday, obviously we finished all of the modifying of the factory parts, and today we're starting installing some more stuff. So right now we're going to do the oil inlet parts, and after that we're just waiting for our oil pan to get welded, and we can continue once that oil pan gets back and welded. So one more thing that we didn't film yesterday, but it might be helpful for some of you guys. You can see the intercooler, front mount intercooler is mounted on there. Basically there's that front bumper bracket right there, and we drilled 2 holes for these M6 screws to go through, and then that attaches to this front intercooler bracket, and then there's one bolt that goes straight into the bottom of the intercooler. So that's how the intercooler is currently mounted. And then on the sides, earlier we were talking about in this front crash bar not knowing what these 2 holes were left for, but they are for these other brackets which hold the front mount intercooler on the sides. So it's just this like bracket that came with the kit, and then you just use these bolts. I forget what sizes they are, and then you can see, if I try and get to focus, down there where it mounts into the side. So it's the exact same thing on the other side. Just this bracket holds in piece, and then there's one more hole on the top of the intercooler, and there's another bracket that we haven't attached yet. But basically the intercooler is mounted on the top, the bottom, and then both sides. So I know we didn't film any of that, so I wanted to show you guys just so we aren't skipping over anything. So we're doing this oil inlet parts. I don't even know what this is really, but basically these are the parts that you need. So there's just that guy, that piece. I don't know what any of these are called, but hopefully this helps if you're doing this kit, so you can kind of see what you need. And then this that big hose or line or whatever it is, and then this like heat shield. So those are the parts, and then we're just gonna go install them. Alright guys, so right now we're setting up the oil inlet parts, and we're a little confused because these guys here can't get to focus, but these guys don't thread all the way on, and we're not sure if that's how it's supposed to be or not. We're kind of thinking they don't go all the way on, but what we're doing is putting plumbing tape around them. We got the oil pan back from our friend. He did absolute amazing job with the welds. There's this side and there's the other side. So this is the oil return now welded onto the oil pan. I just pulled off the headers. The plan now is to put the oil return on, and then the headers. The oil pan has to go on first, and then we can test to see if the oil return lines up where it should, and if it does, I think we're ready to put RTV on the oil pan and then reseal it to the engine. I just finished test fitting the oil pan with the oil return. I had to use a rubber mallet and just hit this pretty hard just to get it to bend a little bit. The reason is that oil return comes up directly in between this, I think this is the water pump pulley down here, and the headers, which come up right in the center. So there's only like 3 inches. And since our friend had to weld it at his place, he couldn't like actually test fit it into the engine when he was welding it on. So I tried to mark best I could where to weld it, but it just didn't turn out perfectly. Just my mark was a little bit off, but that's okay. We just hit it with a rubber mallet a couple times and got it to bend, so now that it fits in between that pulley and the headers. So we're just gonna clean out the oil pan now, and then I think after that it's just putting on RTV and then actually permanently installing this thing back onto the engine. Alright, so we cleaned out the oil pan. Like I said, we just finished test fitting it so that the oil return lines up, and we're just going to use this RTV, just a liquid gasket that we got from Subaru, to make a seal, and then go ahead and throw this back on, and yeah. stock oil pan is now back on. You can see it down there, and then now there is the oil return. There are a couple like rubber O-rings in the oil pan, and we just realized that we didn't change them, which I don't know if you have to, but it's not a bad idea to. But at this point, like, the oil pan is back on. We used the RTV sealant, so it's gonna be a pain to try and pull it off. So we're just gonna like hope for the best. I don't think it's gonna cause any major problems, and if it does, like, we'll just have to pull the oil pan off again. But that is on. So next step, I think, is maybe moving on to getting the headers installed. I know I said the next thing was the headers, and honestly, you could probably do those just fine. Actually, the timer just went off, so we're gonna go torque down the oil pan bolts. Then we're gonna get to this next one, which is installation of the turbocharger bracket. So that should be pretty quick. But for now, let's go torque down the oil pan bolts. It says to torque them to 6 foot-pounds. Turbocharger.
What is it charging?
What's it charging? It's charging the, is it?
Charging the engine?
It's charging the turbo, because it's the turbo's charging.
Oh.
Anyway, now that we figured out what the turbo does, we are going to do this installation of the turbo bracket. So I think it's just a couple pieces here. Let's see if we can find them in our box of goodies. So we're doing the turbo bracket. It's super bright, but yeah, this turbocharger bracket. We removed the, I think it's the idler pulleys, but it's this one that's right above the crank pulley, and then this one right there. So both of those are off. And then I think the next step is just putting the bracket on. Okay, so the turbo bracket is on. We are gonna torque these down to 36 Newton meters, which actually I need to convert that to foot-pounds. Hang on. 26.5 foot-pounds. So let me set that on the torque wrench.
If you guys are wondering too, this is the turbocharger bracket that we were talking about. Just basically attaches onto these pulleys here with a few spacers behind it. Pretty simple.
So we have the torque wrench set to 26.5, and we're just going to tighten down these pulleys. It looks like both of them are the exact same torque of 26.5. So I'll just wait for the click. Do the same thing on this one. Okay, and then let's see, and then we just have to get the belt back on now. There, oh, there's with the belt back on, and then you can see this black piece is the turbocharger bracket. It says to thread this one screw in right there, that tiny one, which I don't exactly know what that's for yet, but it says it's for mounting something, so assuming we'll figure that out. But for now, I think we're done with the, I guess it's like the fourth part, which is this turbocharger bracket. And then I believe moving on next is getting the exhaust manifold in. Guys, so we just got the headers in. We haven't torqued them down yet. We're gonna take a little break and then come back and do that. There they are, they're equal length headers, and it runs all the way up here, which is where the turbo is going to mount. So they went in pretty easily. Just again, it's just like 6 14mm nuts. There's actually studs in the bottom of the engine, so you're just putting nuts on there. The one thing to make sure you do is there's this, let's see if I zoom in, there's this bracket that's included in the HKS kit that you can see bolted up right there, and that has a hole in it, and that's where the it's the up pipe. Oh, look, what's this little one called?
The overpipe.
The overpipe. And the overpipe actually goes, a bolt for the overpipe goes through there, and it kind of like holds the overpipe up so it doesn't hit the frame. All right, I just torqued down the headers. 22 foot-pounds is the number I read online, so that's what I did. There are a couple of the header bolts that, see if I can show you, that are super hard to get to, and I couldn't fit a torque wrench in there, so I have just tried my best to tighten those. Let's see, I think it's that one there, and then the same place on the other side. Some of those header bolts. So those ones might not be exact, but I feel pretty good that I got them tight enough, and then the other 4 are of course torqued to the spec of 22 foot-pounds. So with that being done, the next step is this turbocharger bracket you can see in the picture there. So that just mounts between these 2 holes, and then on these 2 holes on the on this turbocharger bracket that we put on the other piece. So I guess they're both kind of called a turbocharger bracket, but this one's just slightly different. It's right there. We have the it's also called the turbocharger bracket, but it's basically like the second part to the bracket that we installed here. And then we have 4 M8 bolts. They are the hexagon bolts, not the flange bolts. And then we have 4 of these M8 washers too. So this piece should just sit right here, connects to the headers, and then to this first turbocharger bracket that we installed. Here's with the bolts in, super easy. I did have to put the turbo side bolts in first, just the way the headers lined up. If I put this one, if I put the engine side bolt in first, I couldn't get the turbo bolt in, so I don't know if you guys have the same thing, but that's what we had to do. I don't see any torque spec for these bolts, so I'm just gonna hit them with a 12mm and just get them snug. So now the turbo bracket is fully in and tightened. You can kind of see it's these 2 pieces here just to support the headers, and I'm guessing more things are gonna mount on here. So I think that should conclude it for the installation of the exhaust and the bracket. So with that, I believe we're moving on to this, which is installing and assembling the turbocharger. So we're attaching the studs to the turbo, and we didn't know the best way to do this until our friend showed us, but basically I have 2 nuts with a washer in between, and all you do is tighten these together. So I'm just tightening them, and then when you tighten this top one, it tightens the stud into there. Just get it tight, and then all you do is just loosen them, and then you can twist all of these off, and the stud is in there tight. So we're just gonna do that to all 5 of them, and then throw the turbo in the car. As you guys just saw, we got the studs installed in the turbo. The next step is this, it's an oil outlet pipe. There are 2 M6 bolts. Their length is 15, and then this gasket. We were trying to figure out which way the gasket goes. There's like some text and marking on the other side, and then just black on that side. It doesn't say anywhere, so I think they would have said something if it was actually important. So we're just gonna throw it on there so we're just gonna throw it on there. Again, we got the gasket, the oil outlet pipe, and 2 screws, M6 L15. The oil outlet pipe mounts right down there. You should be able to see on the turbo the 2 bolts, and then this just goes in there like that. So we're gonna throw this on now. The oil outlet pipe installed. Again, we put the gasket on, and then there's 2 of the M6 bolts. They are 10mm. It says torque to 8.5 to 10 Newton meters, which is about 7 foot-pounds. We got the torque wrench on this top bolt here, but we couldn't fit it down there at that bolt. Just the socket is too big to fit there, so just tried to do our best with a box wrench to kind of like match the torque on this side. So with that, I think that's it for like working on the turbo. I'm pretty sure we're going to be throwing it in the car next. So guys, we were trying to figure out for a while which hose to use, because we run the hose from the oil return pipe to the oil outlet pipe in the turbo, and there are two of these hoses that both look super similar. The way we found it out is that this one is 250 millimeters in length, and this one's like 100, or this one's like 200 or something. So we were able to measure these and determine that it is the thicker hose. Also, if you try and slide this skinnier hose over the oil return pipe or the oil outlet pipe on the turbo, it just doesn't fit. So it is this bigger, thicker pipe, this bigger and thicker hose out of the two that look the same. So you take this, and then you also take two hose clamps. I think Owen picked them up. They are, what number are they?
Labeled as 230.
They're labeled as 230. So I think we're gonna slide both of those on just to the middle, and then we'll attach the pipe, and then we can use pliers and drag the clamps to the edges so they hold this in place. So here's the hose with the two clamps. Again, these are 230, and it looks like we first connect it to the oil return pipe. So if we go on the entry, I'll give this to Owen and he can try and feed it on there. The oil return pipe again is sticking out right down there, and that goes to the oil pan. So it's just getting that on there.
There, we just have to figure out where to clamp it.
Other thing we forgot to do is you have to trim this. It's like 250 millimeters, so about 25 centimeters in length right now, and it says to trim it to 195 or 19.5 centimeters. Probably we'll just trim it to like around 20, just to be on the safe side, and then throw it in the car. This turbo bracket, which goes from this part to the headers, as soon as you tighten it, it slides forward into where the turbo needs to be sitting. So you pretty much cannot tighten the bolts on here, that we have found a way to do. The only way is to loosen the bolts so that this thing slides up, but once you put the turbo in, there's no way to tighten these bolts since there's not enough space to reach like anything in there. And we've tried multiple times pulling the turbo out, tightening the bolts while trying to get this thing to this bracket to push up. But as soon as you tighten them, it just creeps down and gets in the way of where the turbo sits. This bolt down here, shit, there's no way to show it. It's that bottom bolt there. You can't fit anything in there to tighten it. Can't fit a box wrench, a socket, or anything there. So that bolt's loose. There's another bolt down below there, which you can see. And that bolt actually runs into the turbo. It's so close, so you can't tighten that at all. And then the other bolt is fully underneath the turbo. These are all the bolts for that bracket piece. I mean, obviously having the turbo sit flush is the most important part, so that's about all we can do. So probably gonna try and get the turbo installed now. Alright guys, it's about 10 o'clock now, and after so much struggling, we got the hose on between the let's see, the oil return that goes to the oil pan and the oil outlet from the turbo. Let me see if I can get a better angle, but basically there's two clamps. Let's see, there's one. So there's one clamp, and then it goes up to the turbo. And then there's the second clamp, so it's this pipe here. And this thing is it's so tight down in there, and you have to squeeze those clamps, which are pretty damn solid. And it took us, I don't know, way too long, close to an hour and a half, maybe even more, just to get that hose connected and the clamps on. So that was frustrating, but
all it took in the end was a hand.
All it took.
I came in here, squeezed the clamp from my hand, and rotated it.
Yeah, basically at one point the clamp got rotated so that the place where you pinch was facing in towards the headers, and there's no way to reach like a robo grip or anything in there to grab it. So Owen just came in there and just just fucking ripped the thing. Just pulled as hard as he could to rotate it so that we could clamp it again. And even after that, it was a struggle, but we got it. The turbo's in, bolted down for the most part. Some of these bolts on the turbo, like back in there, I don't know how people tighten them. Just there's, not only are they like far back in the turbo, but they're also like, there's barely any room to fit like a socket or anything. So we just did our best to tighten those. The only thing that's still frustrating is this turbo bracket. We're not able to like fully tighten that down. But I mean, I don't think it's really going anywhere with all the turbo and everything, especially because the turbo is putting so much force pushing it into this piece, just because it was such a tight fit. But it's all in, and I think that's finally all we're doing for part 6, which is assembling the turbo.
Alright, so one last thing we did to finish up the oil return line is we just put a thermal shield around it. That's also provided in the kit. Just looks like kind of like aluminum foil, just like an aluminum foil tube type of thing. We also have that here as well, as you can see. But that's basically just protecting it from the heat, because that line runs up right next to the headers, and the headers are obviously going to get hot, so it makes sense that we had to wrap that.
Alright guys, so right now
Basically, we're going to finish the turbo tonight.
I was thinking that we might be able to get it done tonight, which we might be able to depending on how light we work. The biggest thing right now is we're looking ahead and there's some like coolant line and we're not exactly sure where that goes and how that works, so we're a little confused on that, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to move on to the very next thing, which is the downpipe, and then worry about the coolant lines when we get there. So there's a lot of like wrapping and heat shields, so that's what we're doing now, just because this stuff all gets hot. So there's this like, or not heat shield, but it's like this insulator. You're supposed to use wire, but we don't have wire right now, so we're just gonna use zip ties, which are probably gonna melt, honestly. But we might be able to go get wire tomorrow and just switch it out. But it's like 10:30, almost 11 right now, and all the stores are closed, so we're just gonna use zip ties for right now. There's what this is the O2 sensor, and that's it wrapped with the insulator. All right, so now the second thing it says to do in this part is to wrap these wires with the geez, there's someone shooting flames or doing two-step out there. Anyway, this insulator or whatever, to wrap these wires down here. I'll zoom out a little bit. They're on the passenger side, right down there. Makes sense, they're gonna be close to the downpipe. So those are wrapped, and I think that's it for the wrapping. Yeah, the next thing is just this like little, I guess they call it an insulator, but it goes around the downpipe. Same thing went around the headers. So let's throw that on. So you can see here, there's the insulator bracket piece on the downpipe. So it's super easy, just use 2 of the hose clamps, or not hose. Oh shoot, I forgot to run them through the loops. Okay, I gotta redo this real quick. Hang on.
Alright guys, so the downpipe is ready to go in now. We actually put these clamps through the loops now, so that's all ready to go. We got the O2 sensors in, and one thing you have to do when you're putting these in is just make sure you throw some anti-seize on both of them, just so it's easier to get them out next time, because it gets hot in there, so just makes it easier next time you're taking them out. But other than that, downpipe should be ready to go in the car now. Maybe this way it might be easier. Alright, there we go. All in now, just gotta bolt it up and plug in the O2 sensors as well.
Well, this was one of the studs that was in the turbo, and as you can see, we had the downpipe installed and everything. We were just tightening it, and one of the fucking studs that goes in the turbo just literally snapped So that's, I mean, I don't know, we weren't even tightening them that much. We were just using a box wrench and just getting them snug. We didn't find any torque specs, so we didn't want to crank them, but one of them just clear snapped in half. So luckily we were worried that it was going to get stuck in the turbo and it was going to be a whole pain to get out, but we were able to use some like robo grips, and there was enough sticking out that we could get a good grip and twist it. So that's fortunate that it was pretty easy to remove that, but still frustrating because we were thinking we could get closer to finishing. So I guess now like we have to try and find another stud. We're thinking tomorrow we could probably go to Home Depot or AutoZone or Riley's or someplace and try and find a replacement stud for this kit. So we might try and move on to that like water line that we were talking about, see if we can get that done so we can keep working tonight. But yeah, that was frustrating because we were in a groove and we were getting a lot done, and then this stud decided to snap. So all right folks, probably less than 30 minutes later and we're back in business. Downpipe is back on. I made sure to get the bolts tight, but I did not apply nearly as much pressure as I was doing last time. I'm guessing that's what caused the bolt to snap, was just a little too much torque on that pretty thin exhaust stud, and the thing just snapped in half. So honestly, we got super lucky that we were able to pull it out. I know some people have it get stuck in there and you have to drill it out, and it's this whole problem. So super grateful that it didn't turn into something like that. And for now, we just put luckily these are also M8 bolt threads, so super common size, and I had a couple extra, or one extra M8 bolt laying around, so I just went ahead and threw a bolt in there for now. That should hold it in place. Like obviously after driving it a couple times we'll check on it, just make sure it's staying tight and everything. But for now, pretty much right back where we started. Just gotta plug in the O2 and the other sensor, air sensor or something, and then we can move forward.
I don't wanna let myself down. I don't wanna let myself down.
The other thing too is I just figured out the water line and the coolant line. I think they're water lines, maybe they're coolant lines. I was just a little confused because it says to remove this stock piece. So basically this side of the hose plugs into the throttle body, and it says to remove it from this side and plug this side into the turbo. But when you remove it from this side, I was confused because now there's just an open line on this side, and obviously we don't want anything to be left open. But I kept looking, kept reading through the instructions, and basically figured out that we're going to be cutting this hose. It's just some water hose that was included in the kit, and installing it on that open line and running that to the turbo as well. We'll kind of show you guys as we like start to do it in the car. It will be easier to kind of like show visuals and everything, but that's basically what it was. So I think we're going to do that now, and then after that it's just installing the intake and the front mount intercooler and getting all the piping done there. So actually, like, it's crazy because today we almost had like nothing installed when we started, and now it's like, geez, this is coming together pretty quick. Like there's a chance we actually might finish this tonight. And then there's a few other things we have to do: a fuel pump and injectors, which still we have to order. And then also we got like an oil cooler, so we have to install that as well. So not completely done, but we might finish with the turbo kit tonight, which is super exciting. This first line that we're moving is if you come on the driver's side and look down here, it's gonna be a little hard to see, but there's a line right here, and it has this like black fuzzy or like black mesh material kind of on it. It's pretty much the only line down here that has this like black mesh. So we're gonna pull it from this side, and this one runs to the throttle body right there, plugs into the throttle body, and basically we're gonna reroute this from the throttle body into the turbo. And then because this side is going to be left open back there, we're going to be running another line from the turbo all the way back and to that open line. So that's what the plan is. Let's go ahead and pull that hose out. All right, after some more struggling, got this line disconnected. Wait, sorry, not that one. This one right here. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but down there you can see the little opening. That's where it came from. Ended up using these guys to kind of reach down there, but it's a really difficult one to get since the hose is so far down there and it's just super crowded with all of the stuff in the BRZ compartment. But gonna pull this out. Again, this hose runs into the throttle body right here. So I'm gonna pull it out, and then I believe we trim it, and then it goes to the turbo. Here's the hose. I know I said I unclamped it, but just pulling it out even from back there underneath the engine was a little bit difficult. It took two people. One person to kind of push it, other person to pull from this side. But as you can see, it hooks up to the throttle body there, and I believe somehow we're just gonna run this into the turbo. I think we need to trim a little bit off first. So let's do that, and then we'll try and hook it up. I just pulled this hose off. This one you can see right here, and trimmed a little bit. Basically, you just want to leave like 3 centimeters of straight at the end of the hose. And this one normally bends, comes down, and bends to the left to go back there. But I just flipped it around so that it bends to the right, and then it runs and lines it pretty smoothly with this other piece that we installed. All you do now is just use the stock clamp that you got from when you removed it back there, and it just goes right on this piece and into the turbo. So from the throttle body all the way back and bolts up right there. The second water banjo mounts right here on the front side of the vehicle to the turbo. You just use this, it's like a banjo bolt, and then the copper washer, and then this big piece, and then another copper washer, and it bolts right into the turbo right there. So then that runs down there, and basically my understanding is we're going to run a water line from the end of this all the way back and connect it to the piece that we took off back there. So gonna torque this down the best I can. Couldn't really fit a torque wrench in there, so I just tried to get as tight as I could. I think there might be room for a torque wrench on this side, so I'm gonna try and get the exact torque spec if I can for this side. Water line, let's see if it'll focus. Right there, we are running it down underneath the this radiator hose, and then pretty much it goes just underneath the car all the way back, and then comes up here, and we'll plug back in to where we removed it from earlier, that hole down there. So we have to do a little bit of trimming to the hose just to get it to be the right size, but that's kind of, we're just test fitting it, and that's kind of like the path we want it to take. So we're gonna pull it out now and trim it, and then put it on and clamp it down. The second water line is done. Just as a recap, you can see it starts right there on the turbo, and then runs all the way down and under the car, and then it comes up right here. It's this one that's kind of bent over, and then connects down to where we removed the first water line from. So those are both of the water lines now, and the next step is just this oil banjo, and we already set all of this up earlier. I can't remember if it's today or yesterday now, but we did it at some point. So now all we have to do is connect this, and I think that's it for the turbo. Maybe a heat shield as well, but most of the hoses are almost done. So as you know, we just finished up with all the oil and coolant lines going to the turbo, and last thing we did with this section of installing all the turbo accessories, we just installed this last insulator piece here that just sits over the turbo. And this guy just goes on with 2 bolts. One is inside here, which we just use a long extension for, and then the other, it's pretty hard to get to, but it's just back there close to the pulley, and that guy goes into the turbo bracket, and just 2 bolts, and that was all. So pretty easy to install, but yeah.
just working on getting the intake installed. So far we just installed a bracket that's sitting down here. It's actually in the same position as a stock air cleaner case bracket from like a stock BRZ intake. So basically all you have to do is reuse that bolt, and then you bolt in the HKS bracket, and you can see it down here. It just runs up and sits below the intake pipe here. And the other thing too, for this intake, we basically just put these rubber kind of hoses, I guess, and then you just clamp them onto the metal parts on both sides. So it's pretty simple, not too hard to get them on. We'll be using that a lot more as well for just the rest of like the intercooler piping.
So there's this little, they call it a joint bracket, but it comes off like apparently it's another blow-by hose, and basically it says that you need to cut off this part where it bends, so that it's just a straight, so that's just a straight bracket piece there. So I don't know, it's like 2:30 in the morning and we're just gonna send the Dremel, even though this is probably gonna be super loud. I think it's secured for the most part. I'm just gonna try and cut straight through there.
Gotta do what you gotta do, 2 in the morning.
Oh, that stinks, but let's see. I'll show you guys. So this is what it looks like now. Just like that. And then if you come over to the car, wait, did you get a look at it? Just like that. And then if you come over to the car, oh, we lost our light. Hang on. This is the stock blow-by hose. That still goes in there. And then this is the hose they give us, and this goes from here, and we'll have to trim it, and then it runs in there like that. So we're gonna trim this piece and then connect it all together and clamp it down.
Yep.
So here's what it looks like when it's attached. So we just used that plastic piece that we cut to form a straight line and clamped up there. And then this just goes onto the intake and another clamp down there. And that's it.
Alright guys, quick update here. It's actually 3 a.m. now. And let's see, what do we have now? Obviously, as you know, we finished up with all the intake setup. So now we're doing the intercooler. Basically, we just fully tightened this crash bar, and unfortunately I did cross thread one bolt down there, which is not a huge deal, but it just sucks. I'll probably just have to retap it eventually. But anyways, we got that crash bar fully tightened. We also got these brackets here for the intercooler. Those are all fully tightened. There's just 2 bolts, one on the top and then one goes on the side. So this intercooler is now solid. It's not going to be hitting the crash bar at all. And the last bracket for the intercooler is this guy right here. And it looks like he's just floating in the air, but it's actually just going to go to the radiator support that just sits right up here. And you'll see that later. But yeah, so the intercooler is mostly set up now, and we're just going to go ahead and install the intercooler piping now, I believe.
What time is it? What time is it?
Alright guys, it's currently 3:25 a.m. as you can see.
Alright, hang on, show me again.
3:25 a.m. right here. We've been going at it for probably over 12 hours. I would say a good 14.
At least 15, because we started at 11 or 12. 16 and a half, roughly.
Alright, so we're gonna estimate out 16 and a half hours. And
straight 16 and a half hours straight. We only took like a 30-minute lunch or a dinner break. I don't even think we had lunch or anything, or we had lunch maybe before we started, but it's been pretty much 16 hours straight of just grinding at this.
But as you can see here, the turbo kit is fully installed. So
this morning when we woke up, we had nothing installed. The headers weren't in. oil pan wasn't in. We were trying to remember today actually if we had picked up the oil pan yesterday or like today in this like work session, or if it was a different day. That's how long we've been working. We couldn't even remember, but
Yeah.
pretty much we installed everything today.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we basically started with installing the new welded oil pan, and all the way through, we worked all the way through the instructions to here, and now literally the next steps are putting factory parts back on. So the turbo kit is basically complete right now.
Yep. Front mount intercooler is on, turbo is on. We got the water lines, the
Coolant lines,
oil line,
oil return, everything.
Oil return. We got the heat protection and insulation on everything that we needed to. O2 sensors back in, MAF sensors back in. Obviously the intake is on, all of that. Yeah, I mean, we're going through the parts too. We have a few bolts left over there for the exhaust for the
overpipe. And I actually installed that, or I didn't install the overpipe because I actually do have an aftermarket Tomy overpipe already, and I just reused bolts for that. So that's why we have 2 left over here.
Yeah, these were.
We also have a leftover gasket, but I just reused my old Tomy gasket. So.
And then the only other thing, I guess this is just leftover. And then no, there's one metal piece.
Oh.
That plastic piece that we cut, I don't know where that ended up, that middle one.
It's in the box, clearly.
Oh yeah, here it is. Basically that plastic piece that we cut, because it said to cut, we found out later that there's like this metal piece, which we're pretty sure you can just use this instead of cutting that plastic bracket. So we might switch this at some point, just since it has seals on both ends and the plastic one doesn't. But other than that, we used all of the parts, and I think we're now gonna try and just put all the factory parts back on, or at least some of them.
Probably some of them. Basically what we have to do from here is I'm gonna go ahead and order myself some upgraded injectors and a bigger fuel pump. And we also have a HKS full not intercooler. We also have a HKS full oil cooler kit, so we have to throw that on as well. Shouldn't be too hard, just a few lines going from the oil cooler into whatever. I don't really know how it works, but we'll figure that out as well. But yeah,
I guess I'm thinking that too. Just because we still have a few things left to do. We might not be the best idea to install all the factory parts because we might have to take them off to access some oil lines or fuel pump or fuel injectors or whatever it might be. So maybe we'll put like a few things on, but we might leave, I don't know. I mean, we could put the bumper on and stuff, but
yeah,
we might mostly leave stuff off just until we're fully done with this project.
We could put some stuff like the radiator support.
Yeah.
We could always just put the bumper on and see how it looks, but I think just some things like underneath here, probably not going to fully put it back together.
Yeah, just leave that open.
The oil cooler still has to go on, but I think after the oil cooler, we can basically put everything back together, because obviously the injectors are going to be up in here. So. And
the fuel pumps in the back seats. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're going to do that. Put a few things back on. And yeah, probably call it a night, cause it's or call it a morning, I guess, because
3:30
sunrise is in like 3 hours. So yeah, we'll do that. Time check first from Owen. It is
3:42.
3:42.
We're almost at 4 a.m. guys.
Almost 4 a.m. But the bumper's on. Turbo is pretty much installed. Like we said, we still have the fuel pump, fuel injectors, which we still have to order, and then the oil cooler, which we might try and do tomorrow or later this week.
Yep.
And then after that, like, we should be able to take her to the tuner and have her
get it on the dyno.
We're thinking tomorrow too, maybe going to grab oil and some more coolant. Oh, we didn't put the coolant reservoir back on and stuff.
Yeah, we'd have to do that.
But yeah,
it's not too hard.
If we get the oil filter, oil, and the coolant back in, we might be able to do a test start and just see if she starts up and see if she runs.
Yeah.
Obviously can't take it too hard or drive it or anything with the without being tuned, but I'll be curious to see if she at least starts up. So
Hopefully.
that's the plan.
Hopefully, guys.
Hopefully, yeah. It's been so much work. So yeah, we're probably gonna call it a night because it's almost
4 in the morning.
Almost 4. Birds are about to start chirping and the sun's about to come up. So I'll see you guys probably tomorrow. Well, it is, I don't even know what day it is right now, but we just finished installing the oil cooler. And this thing was honestly such a disaster. Like the install, we got it on, but it took us going to 7 stores to find the one socket that was the right size, because it doesn't say in the HKS kit. Basically, this one centerpiece right there that the oil filter threads onto, you need to tighten that down. And we just kept going to stores trying to find it, and we kept getting the wrong size, and it ended up being a 29mm. So if you have an HKS oil cooler kit, it's a 29mm that you need. Don't make the same mistake as us. And then the other thing, I mean, it doesn't say any torque specs in the HKS kit for any of these oil lines or any of this. So I mean, we just kind of like tried to get them tight, and hopefully that's good enough, but it's a little scary. But I don't know, I mean, if they start leaking, like obviously we can just tighten them down more. But I think now we are going to add the oil filter, reconnect the battery. Owen's got to send some info to the tuner so he can get us a base map, and then from there we can add oil, add coolant, and then see if this thing runs. This is so crazy. After working in this car for a couple weeks and having it jacked up pretty high, it just looks so low to the ground. We're both not used to it, but Owen will explain what the next thing is.
So basically, I got here a ECU tech. I don't even know what it's called, but it's basically just the ECU tech that works with your phone. So all you have to do is just pull it out for you guys, but go ahead and plug this dongle right here into the ECU, and I can just connect to my phone and just set everything up, and then I'll let my tuner know that I need a base map, and he'll just send me over one, and I can put it on the car, and then it'll be ready to start up. And yeah,
so we just reconnected the battery. Owen's gonna jump in the car and let's see if she at least turns on. Obviously we're not starting it, but you probably just put it in neutral too. What if the transmission doesn't move?
that's
okay.
Inside.
See if, oh, we also gotta listen for the fuel pump.
Oh, it feels so good to hear that sound.
X-band.
It sounded like a fuel pump.
K-band.
I did.
KA band.
Just start it with no oil.
Sounds like a fuel pump to me.
Okay.
Sounds like a big old fuel pump back there. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my dongle here, plug this guy into the ECU. It's kind of hard to find because it's way down here, but yeah, it does. I see a green flashing light on it.
Okay. So it should connect to the phone, supposedly. Oh, you may have to turn the car on.
Oh, maybe.
For it to get power, probably.
X-band. K-band. KA band. Laser.
It's gonna work. Stupid bitch.
Alright, so we just deleted and re-downloaded the EcoTech app.
Oh, there we go.
And that seems to be working.
Okay, so I gotta set a password. Firmware update. I don't know if I want to do anything with it yet.
You might have to.
Sure.
Yeah, we just
Got my VIN number in there and everything. Look at that.
shows all the data. Yeah, probably. It looks
Data
like
logging. That's pretty cool.
Probably just text him now and see if we can get a base map cooking. Just added a new crush washer to the oil drain plug. We tightened on the oil filter, and based on everything I've read and from oil changes before, you just get this hand tight, so that's what we did. It's super nice having the BRZ oil filter up top. And then we've got this funnel here. And I'm pretty sure that's where we add it. It says to use OW20, but we are using 5W30 because of the turbo. That's what was recommended to us by some of our friends, so not OW20, 5W30. And Owen just opened 1 quart. We have to put 5.7 quarts in. And here we go, adding oil.
It's all lined up down there?
Yeah, it should be. Just go kind of slowly. Drink up. Owen's working with the tuner right now. I just finished adding all of the oil, and I think we have to go run back to the store. Our 8th trip to the store today. But to get more coolant, I have basically 6 liters, but I was just reading the manual and it says that you need 7 liters of coolant, which sounds like a lot, and especially because this is all that we drained out, which doesn't seem like 7 liters worth. So I don't know, we might run to the store just to grab that, so we have it. But 7 liters definitely sounds like a lot of coolant. It is about 10 o'clock and our tuner just sent the map over. So we're gonna add some coolant, and then basically we had to wait because when you add the coolant, you have to like bleed the air out of the system, which requires you to the best way to do that is to start the car and run it. And we can't start the car without the tune. So our tuner just sent that, which we're super excited about. So Owen's gonna go and flash the new tune onto the car. And then after that we can add the coolant and then start it up for the very first time.
You have to program the ECU.
How do you do that?
There's just a button for it. To get into the car files, y'all program ECU.
K-band. K-A band.
Let's see.
Laser.
Spec HKS BRZ V1 sent over at 9:59 p.m.
Program.
Ignition is on, engine is not running, handbrake is engaged, doors are closed, interior lights and headlights are off, air conditioning and fans are off, car battery is not low. Okay.
We're gonna start adding the coolant. Don't grab that thing.
Oh wait,
What?
that's the ECU making that noise.
Oh really? As I said, that's a loud battery.
That's odd. So what do I do? Just
I
start?
feel like the car has to be off though. I don't know.
What, to add coolant?
Or I don't know.
I mean, it's just the battery's on.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you're not programming it. It's not like you're turning off in the middle of programming it.
No.
I'd turn it off. I don't know.
Should I just turn it off and see what it tells me?
Uh-huh. I think it's fine.
Okay, I have no idea. I hope I didn't fuck shit up, but...
Alright, you gotta start adding coolant. Just grab one of the open ones first.
I mean, just... What did they say? Just keep filling until...
Until it stops.
Stops. When is it going to start filling up at the top?
I don't know.
Because somehow in the videos...
Maybe it's because they're pouring a little faster. She's just thirsty.
She's burping already.
Because it said the BRZ is supposed to take 7 liters or something of coolant, and we only put like 3.5, maybe 4, and it already stopped taking coolant, which means that there's probably a lot of air in the system or something, but we're just not sure if there's that little coolant, if it's okay to start it, but I don't really see another alternative. I think maybe when you start the car and run it, that's what gets the system to burp,
At this point, I'm thinking we just have to accept that this might be the end of the BRZ. Yeah, you never know, right?
Yeah.
This could be the end. So
This might be our last look at a built engine or a running engine.
it did run,
A
but
once running engine.
we don't know.
Our friend just responded and he did say to fill the coolant reservoir before we start it. So I'm going to do that while Owen works on the tune. So we just fill up the coolant reservoir here. Owen just found out that in order to flash the car, your phone has to be at 20%. It doesn't even matter if it's charging. So got the jacker out here putting in work, trying to get his phone charged. And then
14, guys.
14. So once it gets to 20, we're gonna do the flash.
Well, we don't have a fire extinguisher, do we?
No.
Ooh.
Should we get a fire extinguisher?
Maybe. I don't even know if we have one.
Think about it. It's two shitty electricians or two shitty mechanics who did this. Like, we've never done anything besides the exhaust axle back change before.
And there's about a day old gas down by the injectors. I mean, I tried to wipe it up, but you never know if there's any left over. So I hope she doesn't catch fire. But fingers crossed, guys.
Oh shit, it's almost there.
Can't even cross my fingers. There we go.
Oh, it's doing something.
Please turn the ignition off. Please wait.
That's what it does when the ass is foot.
Please turn the ignition on.
Failed.
Failed. Your car's screwed, man.
Yeah, what if I
Holy
just...
shit.
What?
Clearing DTCs.
Uh-oh. That's not
My
good.
car is going crazy right now. The lights are flashing. It says programming completed successfully. Close.
Does that mean we can start it now?
It says it completed successfully, so.
Go over. We gotta keep adding coolant slowly.
She's not gonna start. No shot.
Just make sure you turn the heat on. That's what he said. Okay. Just turn the heat on. And then, right, we just add coolant. We gotta keep monitoring the temperature. Do you know where the heat temperature is in there, or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Okay, so we just gotta keep monitoring that.
It says C and H, so it's cold and hot.
Okay. To make sure it doesn't overheat. And then keep adding coolant and making sure, and then we stop once this thing stops burping.
Oh shit,
I think you gotta do it.
My heart's racing so fast.
I know, me too.
Okay, we have oil.
We have
coolant. We have the necessaries, right?
Yeah. I can't think of
God.
anything else.
Okay, I'm scared out of my mind.
I'm shaking over here.
All the bolts are torqued down, right?
I don't know. Alright, I know we kind of just stopped the video there and cut you guys out, but basically what happened is we first started the car up and there was some smoke coming from the engine. So we were chatting with our friends, chatting with the tuner, because we were also getting a check engine light, which according to Owen and the ECU tech, it said it was P0300, which is a random cylinder misfire. So we just sent a data log, just a 15-second log to the tuner. It didn't sound like it was misfiring or anything. And we just started it up again to send the log, and apparently the check engine light wasn't there anymore, so I don't know, maybe it was just like a first start thing. And then we were also reading online that sometimes like just new headers and new parts, when they're like getting broken in, they just smoke a little bit, so maybe that was part of the smoke we were seeing from the headers or whatever it might be. So yeah, that's kind of like what we're doing now. We might I don't know. I mean, if the code's not running and we're not hearing it misfiring, maybe we'll wait and see what the tuner says. But then we might try and let the car run and warm up, and then continue getting the air bubbles out of the coolant.
Look, you want to start it this time?
Oh, sure. But let everyone know what the update was from the tuner.
All right, guys. So I actually just got a really good update from my tuner. Obviously, the first start was kind of rough, and I think I'd expected. Obviously, I think I'm just paranoid of all the stuff we did to it, because we did a lot. But I mean, it wasn't running for over a month, and basically, let me get to the point here. That I sent a log over to my tuner, and he said he checked it, and everything looks great in here, which is good to hear. And he's basically telling me that I can just let it idle and warm up a little bit. So we're probably just gonna keep bleeding through this coolant here, trying to get some more coolant in. And then he said if I want to, I can take it out for a drive and send him a log. So yeah,
let's do it. You couldn't tell based on my hair, it is a new day. Last night was a little stressful because when we were starting this thing up, it would run fine for about like 20 to 30 seconds, and then it would start to shake really hard. The RPMs would drop down significantly. The doors were shaking, the whole interior was shaking, and it just sounded horrible. It didn't sound good. There was some smoke. So chatting with a lot of people, chatting with the tuner, and basically we just went through and tightened down everything again, made sure everything was tight, all the lines were tight, made sure all the hoses were clamped on properly and tightly, and decided to start it up again. And I'm happy to announce that it's been running for about 10 minutes now. There was a little bit of smoke left, and based on some reading that I did online, sounds like when you're installing parts, obviously there's oil on their hands and that can get onto the parts, and then that can start to smoke when they heat up for the first time. They're also brand new parts, so I guess like a little bit of smoke and stuff as they heat up for the first time is expected. So I think that's probably what it was last night too. Obviously the shaking was a concern, and I'm guessing it's just something was loose, something wasn't tight, and some of the air was just leaking out and the engine wasn't getting the correct amount of air. That would be my best guess. Not exactly sure. I also cleaned the MAF, the MAF sensor, just to make sure it was reading air correctly. So it might have been that, it might have just been something loose, I don't know, but it's super exciting to see this running. Unfortunately, Owen's at school right now, so he allowed me to start it up, and I was working on it this morning a little bit. But yeah, once Owen gets home, he's gonna be super excited, and I think once we finish, I'm also burping the coolant still, and once I get that done and Owen gets home from school, I think we can actually take it out for a test drive and not go crazy or anything, but just drive it down the street and send some logs to the tuner. So that's super exciting. Kind of crazy to see this thing running now. So I'll keep you guys updated, and probably see you guys again when Owen's home from school. He's been running over 15 minutes and no check engine light, baby. Let's go. Finished, I guess you could call it burping, but basically getting rid of the air in the system. I highly recommend this kit that we're using here. Comes with all the pieces you need for whatever size you might be working on. It fits the BRZ perfectly. We just got it from AutoZone. I think it's called OEM Tools, and it's like the no spill cooling system kit. Allows you to bleed the system, bleed the coolant system without creating any mess. Basically this sits in here, and then once you're done, you plug it with this yellow piece here. That allows you to pull this out without spilling any of the coolant. Then all you can do is take it over, set it in an extra coolant jug, and you pull this yellow tab, which opens the hole at the bottom, and the extra coolant just goes right back in there. So this made it super easy. Let the car run for like 30 to 40 minutes probably. We gave it a little rev to like 2,000 or 3,000 RPMs, and that helped get any of the lost air bubbles out. And now we're just gonna put the radiator cap back on.
I think she's ready to go now. What do you think? I mean, we got coolant and everything, and I wasn't here, but Max said that she was running for, I don't know, what would we say? What would you say, like 30 minutes?
30 minutes at least, yeah.
Half an hour. And we burped out the coolant and everything, so she's loaded with coolant, oil, and seems to be running good right now, so I think we're gonna go ahead and take it out for a drive.
All right. Wait, hang on. Okay. So crazy. Okay, let's just go super slow. Yeah. Yeah. Keep coming. Let's start turning it a little bit. It's scraping the plastic piece on the front. Going. Wait, let me move the 2x4s. Hang on, there's a car. Okay, it's coming. You want to just park it? Just go park it up there.
Guys, we're in the car now, so we're gonna go ahead and go for a little drive. See how she drives.
She's driving. I mean, we haven't gone above 15 miles an hour, but
she still drives at least.
But did you hear something right over?
I don't know.
Huh. There's definitely something shaking around.
Alright guys, so we're back. It's been a while. I don't know the last time we filmed, but we were out of town and I wasn't really driving at all, but just got back and I threw in a 3-bar map sensor from Omni Power. My tuner sent me a new map for that map sensor, and essentially we should be able to hit a little bit of boost now. Still on basically a bass tune, but I think we might be able to go ahead and hit a little bit of boost now, so yeah.
Let's go. Yeah, we're gonna see if she goes stu-tu-tu, and maybe get some logs and stuff along the way. So yeah, should be interesting. Oh my god!
Holy fuck! Holy shit! Excuse my language, guys, but. Oh my god, guys!
That sounds insane.
This is gonna get real addicting.
All right, guys, exciting news. It's been a couple months now of working on this, trying to get it finished, and we just finished the tuning process, or we didn't finish it, but our tuner just finished it up. I'll let Owen tell you what we made in terms of power, but overall the car seems to drive great. I haven't been in it. Owen just drove it home and he seems super happy with it, said everything feels great and smooth. So I'm gonna go for a first ride on this thing after tuning. But Owen, you want to let them know what it made on the dyno, because we're both pretty happy.
Yeah, so basically we tuned the car on a Mustang dyno. And if you guys don't know dynos, there's different types. So there's a Mustang dyno, and then there's also a Dynojet dyno. And Dynojet usually reads higher and Mustang usually reads lower. So on the Mustang, we made 270 to the wheels. And when you calculate that to Dynojet, that's about 310 wheel on a Dynojet.
310 wheel. So we pretty much, I mean, we don't know exactly what stock wheel horsepower is on these cars when they're naturally aspirated. We've heard like 150, 170 range. So we pretty much doubled the horsepower by throwing in this turbo kit. So I'm super excited to go for a ride. Let's do it.
Yeah. I have 3 different maps on this thing. So you just change it by the cruise control stick. It's pretty easy. But I got map 1, 2, 3, and 1 is like the slowest. So that's about 250 wheel on the Mustang. I don't know the conversion to Dynojet. And then it goes to like 260 and then 270, which is like the 310 Dynojet map. And I'm only on map 1. I haven't even tried map 2 or map 3, and it's already fun. So
sweet. Yeah. So we're on map 1 still?
yeah.
All right, so map 1, so 250, like Owen said, 250 on the Mustang dyno. I don't know, just estimating 280, 290 on a Dynojet maybe.
Probably about that, yeah.
So still, I mean, still a huge improvement over the stock BRZ, but obviously like still have the opportunity to turn it up like 20 more horsepower. So that's cool. Huge shout out to the tuner for like setting us up with those maps.
Yeah.
Already riding in it, just going up the street, it already feels so much smoother. It's pretty crazy over just the base map. So
it just feels like it just drives like how
it did from the factory. Yeah. That's awesome.
Perfect, because before when we were just cruising around on the base map, it was kind of like jolting and stuff. When you get low RPMs, it would kind of jolt start, I guess you could say, and it just wasn't the smoothest, you know. But
it feels solid. It feels really solid now.
All right, let's go for a little pull here.
Oh jeez. And we're in map 2 now.
Oh yeah.
All right, second gear, little pull on map 3. Oh my gosh. That pulls. That's so sick. Oh my gosh.
Wow.